Claim
Welcome to the Ann Arbor Human Rights Commission. Call to order.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Chair Stambaugh.
Here.
Vice Chair Garber.
Here.
Commissioner Winkler.
Here.
Commissioner Meadows.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Bond.
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Councilmember Watson. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Agenda. We have a motion to look at the agenda and approve it.
I move to approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, who's second?
Judah.
Public comment? Do we?
Is there anybody here for public comment? No? We have no one here for public comment.
We see no one here. We will not do public comment. Approval of the minutes from September, which was our last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second. Let's discussion. Does anybody have anything about the minutes that they would like to change? No? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Follow up on outside group work. Oh, I think we'll have to skip that because we have no one here from city council, but Chris did tell me that he thought that they've had low-key meetings. They're doing a lot of administrative stuff too, and there was really nothing worth talking about for us that was specifically relevant for us.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yes. Ongoing HRC work, starting with administration, and we are going to have a calendar for 2025. And Kennedy, would you like to?
Yes, so if everyone could please, the handout is there. I also sent it out a couple hours before the meeting. This is the 2025 calendar for the Human Rights Commission. The location at the meeting will stay the same, the basement conference room. The dates on this calendar have been reviewed with recommended observances. I've also included that list in the handout as well, so you can take a look to see if it interferes with anything. But these are the dates. Please make a note. I know you all did not meet in August this year, but next year I did put in the August date because I know this past round it was canceled because you guys didn't meet. But if you guys decide not to meet, we can still put it out on Registrar so people know. But
we
this
keep
is
the room.
the room will stay the same.
Okay.
So
Great.
I just need a motion to approve, and we're all set.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you.
So when I accepted one of those meetings on my phone, it apparently
Yeah,
sent out...
it did.
I don't know
Twice.
why, but you were all invited.
Thanks,
You know,
Judah.
like,
So I-
the task of the vice chair.
What?
Anyway, very nice of you
Should
to
we
accept.
RSVP?
It was not intending to do that. It was just an automatic weird function.
It's okay. Okay. Thanks, Kathy.
Complaints, Judah.
Okay. There are really no, there are 2 outstanding complaints, but I think they're only outstanding in name only, not in substance. I think the substantive work has been done. We just need to formally close them. So, if we got a new one this last month, it's been resolved. Nothing really, no after meeting discussion because there aren't any really outstanding.
Okay, so
Except in the formal sense, and I can touch base with the people who need to just say done, and then we can do that. Thanks.
I'm hesitating because I remember talking about renters issues. Renter. And we talked about the possibility of getting together with housing, the Housing Commission and other people. Maybe that we should talk about that. Do you remember that? You said something we should not bring up. I mean, not do. We don't know enough about it now, perhaps. But that may be coming up.
You mean with respect to complaints?
With respect to, there's still some question about source of income and whether or not, and what rental units are covered by it and what aren't. A lot of people are saying that they think that they're not covered, or that they.
Okay.
So I think we need more education, perhaps, for us and for renters.
Okay.
And I don't want it to die, so I wanted to say something about it, so I can remember to follow up on it. Okay, annual report adoption. As you all...
That's also a handout as well.
So you've got the annual report. It's in 2 parts. It's for 2023, and I'm going to try to finish 2024's by the end of the first...
Yay.
the first quarter of next year. But first of all, do you have any comments about it?
Thank you for your work on it.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your work on it, too. You did a lot of work, too. We're still... It's hard to do still because of this one went through 2 people who are in charge of complaints, and so finding all the complaints is a little bit difficult, even though we thought we had them documented well, but not quite. It's getting better. So, any comments about that, about this report? One of the things I want to do in the future, if possible, and I don't know if it's possible, but it'd be nice to have some statistics. Maybe, but it's hard because everything we do is unique. So, but we might consider some statistics, even if we do it over a couple of years. And there is a third part of this complaint system that you don't see. It is something that we have worked with purchasing in the past with, and we've done some of the work and they've reported it. And I've mentioned it in here. I say facilitation of contractor compliance under Chapter 112, non-discrimination. And so purchasing works on it because purchasing hires all the contractors and is the person who knows who they are and can send things to them, and et cetera, et cetera. it's in the report. I'm hoping that you pass the report and that I can send it to City Council, but I want you to know that this small paragraph, which basically says a separate report jointly prepared by Human Rights Commission and Purchasing Manager Colin Spencer for fiscal year 22 to 23 and 23 to 24, will be submitted to City Council for its approval in the near future. I'm going to change those three sentences whenever I can, whenever I know what we're really going to do. We're going to not work with Colin Spencer anymore. We're going to work with Laura Orta of Organizational Equity. And I think it's going to be a very interesting change, and that we can do a lot more to understand who our contractors are and maybe to get access to them. And Pam and I will talk about it, because we can provide something, and maybe we'll just provide it. But I think it'll be 2 sentences regardless. And
So you're proposing that we vote on this, but you're going to change this before it gets sent to City Council?
yes, but it's
Okay.
just
that's
probably
fine.
2 sentences.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I'd like to have your okay on it.
Yeah.
So can we have a motion to pass it, or yes?
Motion to pass the annual report with changes?
Yeah, I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Without any discussion, are all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, great. Okay, that's done. Public service announcement. Pam, we talked about this last time. I think when you asked for some help and we didn't give it to you, why don't you tell us exactly what it is so we can do it this time?
So we talked about getting the word out. We're the best kept secret, I believe. And so one of the ways to do that is through the same entity that records our meetings, which is CTN. There are 2 individuals I've been in touch with, Melissa Bondi, and she referred us to Dana Denha. And they have given us, I've sent all of you, I believe, after our last meeting, the recommendation of Melissa for utilizing. There's a couple of ways we can do this. We can have it scroll on one of the public, I call them PSC, public service like channels for Ann Arbor, or we can prepare a presentation where we kind of interview or are interviewed, and then we share with the public what it is that we do. Melissa requested us to give her a copy of our flyer, but because of the most recent changes, it's not accurate. So I don't want to do that without that being most up to date. And the contact person who's the program manager that would do this for us is Dana Denha. So they're basically just waiting on us to get back to them of when, and they said anytime. They sent, and I think I forwarded that to each of you, examples of what we could do, of what they have done in the past. It's for your information, or a kind of did you know? And so I'd like for those who have indicated that they'd like to participate. I believe Keita said that she definitely was. Don't recall others who may have, but really all of us could.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see us do both and update the flyer so that when we do make the presentation, we have the most current information that we're disseminating to the public.
Okay. And
So I
that
just
flyer is
need-
almost ready except for right to work, to sit, I think.
We're talking about the one with 2 columns that just kind of has all the protected categories on one side, and are we talking about that?
I think so. It's got green tree on it, and it's
Well, there's a couple-
trifold or something.
Oh, no, we never had a trifold that I know
Trifold?
of. No.
No?
It's a one-pager,
Right,
which, now that we have the right to sit, it doesn't actually fit on that at all.
right.
So we'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
It's just tough because it's one page, and if you want to keep it one page. So maybe we need a separate flyer, maybe a flyer for that. And we have that housing flyer for the fair chance access to housing.
True.
So,
Yeah.
so really, we already have 2.
So maybe we can come up with a third that just emphasizes right to sit,
Right,
and then share all 3.
right.
because we want the public to have as much information about us that they don't currently have, or they have
Yeah.
to search for it.
It's a good time for it, too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want us to do? You're the head of the committee.
Well, I'd like for us to get a date that we can either dialogue with Dana or establish a date to actually come to the offices and do a presentation. But I'd want all of the flyers to be up to date when we do that. And I don't know if we have a date for that.
Those really should be done soon, I think. What do you think?
Well, I mean, we're about to get to the right to sit stuff. I worked on the website and a little bit to try to figure out how to make it not too complicated, you know. So, I mean, I'm not very graphically talented when it comes to doing an attractive flyer.
Yeah, I can do that.
You can do that?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
You
do.
like doing that? Well, I can send you some content. I mean, so the communications, really, this was the kind of stuff I was raising last time. So City Council passed this requirement or this right, the right to sit. It falls to us to enforce it. The question is to what extent the city wants to support us in communicating this new right. And really, they have a communications department. If I sent them the content, they really should do it rather than you having to spend your time on it. Just like they did the Fair Chance Access to Housing. Margie from the City Attorney's Office facilitated that. So I sort of think this should be the same, but if it isn't, then yeah. Because I do think if City Council is going to pass something like this, then they and the city should be responsible for doing what needs to be done to allow us to then enforce it and to let people know it exists.
So
thanks.
do we ask them then?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll have to come up with, or somebody will have to come up with just the content.
Okay.
And then
And then you email it to
send
me.
it to you or well, in the past, Margie, because she was involved in the right to sit language, so she could then kind of approve whatever.
The to communication.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, I can CC you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, great, okay. So I'll try to do something, so it'll be a third flyer.
Yeah, so I would just want anyone who's interested in participating, or all, to let me know, and then I will communicate that probably to Dana, because she's the contact person. And I'd like for us to do both so that it scrolls, or she can do, there's a page that she sent me, I think I sent it to each of you, of examples of what they've done of other entities in the community to get the word out. And so it's twofold. It's a for your information, did you know? And then it's more detailed with the flyers. And I'm thinking she has said that they can do scripts, or we can do our own. Where she would interview us and ask questions. But I want it to be ongoing and continuous. And at this point, we're it will generate a lot of interest given the two most recent additions to the ordinance, you know, the Fair Chance Access and then the right to sit. And so let me reach out to her. I told her I'd reach out to her last time, and then we didn't meet. So I will follow up with her tomorrow and see what we have available, and then just email everyone. And then just let me know of your availability, and then when the final flyer would be available.
Okay.
You use the word presentation. Did she suggest a presentation?
She offered it, not
Okay.
necessarily encouraging or requesting or suggesting that we do that. It's just based on what they've done for other entities that they have then shown on CT and the public access channels.
That might be useful for us to do that.
I'm not opposed to it. I just need, at this point, they're waiting on us.
Because they have the expertise
Sure.
to if they know who we are and what we care about and what we do, they could read all of our materials differently and say
Right.
and pick out what what they
So when I
want to.
follow up with her, hopefully tomorrow, but as soon as possible, and make that recommendation, she may ask those of us who are interested in participating to come in for like a pre-meeting before you actually do a recording of a session.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Is this a human rights?
It is, it is.
You'd have to sit. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll contact her and let you know what she shares, and then ask her for a follow-up, like date and time, for us to move forward with both, the scrolling and then the presentation.
Did they put the actual flyer up, or did they?
So what I've seen them do with other entities, that they, whatever that organization or entity has, they show that. They show people involved. Sometimes they're moving around places around the city. They're focusing on it. They give information like the 6 W's, who, what, when, where, why, now. So they would list that, we meet monthly, we meet on the second Wednesday of each month, 7 to 9. There's availability. Here's what we do. Here's what we've done. Here's, for example, the annual report. Here's what we've accomplished as an organization. If you don't know or you just have questions, here's whom you contact. So I think all of that would probably be in the presentation.
Yeah.
I don't know if they get into history, but, we don't know. And then given the 2 new responsibilities that we have, we may be busier than we've ever been, so.
Could be.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you need to know who's interested?
I had Keita, and it was in the strategic
It's in
plan.
the strategic
So
plan.
I was going on that, but anyone, literally anyone is welcome. But Brandon had put, what was it? It
And
was,
Vanessa, Kita.
I know it was Keita.
And Vanessa.
And Vanessa, okay. So
The
anyone
annual
though,
report is
literally
also
anyone. And I'm
annual.
thinking, especially if they want from a historical perspective, not necessarily a dissertation, but just a brief couple of paragraphs that says, we've been in existence since, and here's what we've evolved to as of today, and most recent legislation that we're now responsible for. And then get into the specifics of what we do.
Yeah.
I would say for it, I feel like I'd probably recommend going the script route, just to make sure there's not like any confusion or misinterpretation of things. So yeah, I think that might be the safest route, and then most easiest too, because sometimes information gets lost. So just one thought.
Okay. So I'll contact her and then I'll get back to you.
Thanks.
Are there other people wanting to come in?
I think so.
Yes, like this.
Is this the political meeting?
Human Rights Commission?
Pardon?
Human Rights Commission?
We're trying to find, like a political commentary, meeting. I don't know. It's supposed to be. Do you know where that's supposed to be at?
No. The guy
Did you
at the
ask the
front
guy
desk.
was there a fellow at the front desk?
There was no one at the desk.
Oh,
He must
he's
have
usually
stepped away.
there. He'll be, if you,
We should probably go back up.
Yeah.
and check. Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt.
There was nobody there when I came either.
He probably stepped away.
okay.
Strategic plan.
Strategic planning goal efforts. I put it, even though when December is the quarterly review, I thought since we hadn't done this before, and Brandon is here who could tell us exactly what kinds of stuff we should be thinking about when we do our presentations, or when we do talk about this in December. Maybe you want to give a brief.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to send this out, but I will send it out right after the meeting. But I made just like a quick document. It just has questions that we can look at for our quarterly reviews and then the annual one. They're really simple and quick. So for our quarterly check-in questions, it's just what specific goals have we made progress on this quarter, if any? What challenges or obstacles have we encountered, if any? Are there any resources or support needed to keep progress on these goals? 4 is, have any goals fallen behind schedule? If so, why? Are there any emerging issues or needs that need to be addressed this quarter? Are there any adjustments we should make to our current goals or timelines? So that's essentially
that's great.
quarterly, just to make sure that we're on track, what's happening, pros, cons, all that. The annual ones, there's 7 in total. Again, pretty quick. Which goals have we fully met, and what were the most effective actions taken? Which goals are still in progress, and what remains to be done? What feedback do commissioners have on our strategies for goal achievement? Were there any unexpected outcomes, it can be positive or negative, this year? What resources, processes, or training could improve goal progress for next year? How can we enhance and sustain commissioner engagement and accountability moving forward? Should any new goals be added or existing goals revised based on current needs? So you can see very simple questions, more so like yes and no. So hopefully we can just do like a quick round with each of the goals in our document here. We can just get like that quick check-in and then strategize what actions need to take place afterwards, but that should hopefully keep us up to date.
So we got like an email from like our teacher about we had to go to political meetings with AP.gov, and I think this is what he emailed us about. Do you mind if we just sit here and like
No,
take notes
please.
Thank you.
Are you a high school student?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
If you need us to sign something after to say you were here, we can do
We
that.
should take like a picture for
Oh,
the.
okay. Also, you're on
One day I
TV.
didn't come prepared.
That's
It
closer to
is
TV.
recorded, yeah.
Right above you.
But yeah, essentially that is the evaluation review process. And again, I'll send this document out to you, everyone, just so we know. So for the December meeting, focus on the quarterly one, and then maybe at our annual planning session, we can just review the annual review questions. And yeah, that's the plan right now. But how do those questions sound? Any adjustments? And of course, you can still provide comments and tweaks and edits once it's fully sent out to you all later today or tomorrow.
Well, I hope people will go also to the goals thing that we have, that I sent you again, that Brandon created. It says what we agreed, what kinds of things you said you were going to do. That would be nice. It's exciting. We're going toward transparency and accountability, right?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else about that?
So here, you're just listing them, we're not going through them
Right.
this time.
Okay.
Just previewing for the next time, which will be the quarter.
That's right. I put this on
Got
here
it.
because I wanted to make sure everybody knew
Got it.
what they were in charge of.
Okay, good.
Okay. Gender-neutral restrooms.
Okay,
An update.
I don't have any new updates since last month. Again, it's with the city, well, lies with the state to make any kind of systemic change in state plumbing laws that would allow for a broader, rollout of gender-neutral restrooms. But it is permitted under our city's interpretation to have a gender-neutral single-use restrooms. So the multiple ones that are problematic due to the plumbing codes, which can be changed, and that's up to the city if they want to lobby. But otherwise, just we're left with doing one at a time, and that's the city's recommendation, but I don't know if there's been any specific actions since then.
It's not a requirement though, right?
Not a requirement.
Could the city require it?
It'd be expensive to a lot of people.
At least in new builds?
I don't know that the city can require it, but let me just look at that last.
I mean, what was Sarah's goal in doing this when she...
Well, to have as much
More availability?
as possible.
Right, but when you say the city, I'm not, do you mean in city facilities?
No, I'm talking about in facilities in general. So let me just.
Okay.
Okay, so
I think Sarah.
Can the city require establishments, that is non-government established,
Okay.
to have gender-inclusive bathrooms? And the answer is no. Because of the plumbing code. However, single-stall restrooms can now be gender-inclusive. Not gender-specific, right? Same thing.
But,
So-
I'm still confused. What was the change that Sarah was
So
looking for?
according to city attorney, the option now is to have council pass a resolution encouraging the state to amend the plumbing code to allow or even require gender-inclusive restrooms. That's where we stand.
Because what Sarah was hoping for is that for just like single stall or single use restrooms, that instead of having it gender, you just change it to gender inclusive, because anyone can use it, like function wise. So I think that's what she was aiming for, is just to, if anyone can use it anyway, just make it
Right,
like that.
So I don't think that, I don't know if that's precluded.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, if I suppose if we wanted to make that recommendation to city council, that they push that, then we could do that. That's how I understand the status of where we are.
Are you still trying to get something else, or is this, are we just at a roadblock?
This is where we are until the state changes their laws. So I think that the most we can do on this would be to have the city recommend that new construction have gender-neutral single units. Not exclusively, but that they have some of them. And that's permissible, and so I guess we can ask the city to push that harder. I think that's the scope of what we can do.
Do we want to do that?
And would you feel comfortable getting back to Margie and just checking with her on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since she was involved in all
Yep.
this, right?
Yeah, I'll see if there's
Okay.
any,
Okay, if that makes sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the plumbing has to be different.
The plumbing code doesn't allow for gender-neutral restrooms. You could talk to the city attorney about why, but that's their read on the plumbing code. So, until it's changed, that's where we are.
What is the?
I don't have the plumbing code
rationale for-
here, so, I'm sorry.
What is the rationale for them? Is it like undue hardship, cost-wise, to change it, or is just a flat, we're not doing it?
I don't know that they flatly say they aren't doing it, but
Okay.
as it stands now, it precludes restrooms of multiple users to be gender neutral. There would have to be a change in that code. Is the state refusing to do it? I haven't heard the state's refusing to do it. So the city can try to exert whatever influence they can on the state to change it. And it would require other, buy-in from representatives from throughout the state. I don't know the political landscape there. Watching the last presidential campaign, there was a whole lot of ugly, anti-trans advertisements that was preying on all kinds of people's fears and trying to stir up a political climate that would make it unfavorable, if you just by personal sense, but it doesn't mean that Ann Arbor shouldn't try to do something.
So for clarification purposes, right now, the bathrooms are labeled gender specific.
Yes.
Right.
And when there is a single stall, that is not
That is open to,
anyone, right?
it could be. It could be labeled to be gender neutral.
But how would you know if the
Single
bathroom
room, you
is
mean, or single stall in
single
a
stall?
bigger?
Just single stall, right?
Single.
Because right now, if the bathrooms are labeled gender specific, then only those who are,
Right.
of that specific gender can use that bathroom. Not anyone can use it. It has to be specific to the gender.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And so Sarah's position was to have legislation that allows gender neutral to use any or all. And right now, the state's position is, for plumbing reasons, if I understand you correctly, that's not going to happen, at least not anytime.
That can't happen now. Under the
Right.
existing plumbing code, that's not permitted.
Right.
There's nothing in the plumbing code, as far as our lawyers interpret it, that would preclude single units from being designated as non-gender specific. That's the scope in which we can act without any further legislation.
I guess I'm confused because if you don't know that you can, and it's labeled gender specific, then you're going to be, in my thinking, you will follow the gender that that particular unit is
Right.
labeled. You wouldn't know, plumbing issue beside, that it is or could be gender neutral.
Well, it could be labeled.
It could be, but it isn't. And what I understand you saying that's not going to occur because the bathrooms are currently labeled gender specific. They're
Well,
not gender-
some are and some aren't. If you go to small establishments, they often have one restroom and it's not labeled, and that's
And then everybody uses it.
that's absolutely permitted, and that's what we are talking about encouraging for those. Maybe they don't even exist. I don't know. The places I go, they usually have a stall and it's gender non-specified. But places that have more than one stall often specify them, and some don't. Some just call them family restroom, whatever.
Right.
So,
The library, for example, does that.
okay.
Our libraries, our City of Ann Arbor libraries, they have 3. So they have gender specific, and then they have family.
Yeah.
Without any change in the law, Ann Arbor, in theory, could encourage businesses to, if they have single units, to make them non-gender specific. That's the state of the law, as I understand it.
But I do not understand what plumbing has to do with it unless every men's stall has a urinal attached. Do they? I don't.
I think more information is needed.
I think so, but I just don't understand the logic.
I can bring the plumbing code to the next meeting. We can look at it. But
I assume that's got to be the reason.
that's the bottom line.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's why I offered, is cost a factor? Is it cost prohibitive? If, I don't know what plumbing would change, right? I don't know what anything has to do with the plumbing.
Yeah,
But if the argument is put forth that it's a cost factor, that it's prohibited because to make any change, to make it general.
The argument now is that the plumbing code doesn't allow it. That in the plumbing code, there are references gender-specific bathrooms throughout the plumbing code, and that language exists and
I see.
and must be complied with. You may not agree with it, but that's what's in the code.
Okay, so it's really not about plumbing, it's about the gender-specific language.
In the code.
In the code.
Which probably related to urinals and other such
Yeah.
things. I don't know.
Okay.
But the code as it stands now has
And that's
gender-specific
state, and that's
requirements,
state.
and so we don't want to get on the wrong side of the code.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll inquire further with
Yeah,
the
okay,
city
thank
and
you.
see if they're open to pushing what we can push.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for taking over that project. I think it has a lot of value. School of Social Work. I just wanted to mention that the School of Social Work, I gave them a whole, in fact, if people want this, I was going to give it out and I evidently didn't. They had about, 7 possible options that I provided from the Human Rights Commission, and they came up with 2 extras. So they came up with, I think 6 groups that are going to be working, and some of them will want to talk to us, probably in December. So I wanted you to read on which ones you might be most interested in, just because I might have to make a decision without having a chance to tell you about them. There are, the last time I heard, remember I only get intervened in the beginning. Renters' unfair housing practices is one group. Disabled students in schools, and how it sounds like they're doing some partnering where those students are feeling very isolated because they're in a group all by themselves, and that there are ways to get them out in the regular humdrum of the high school or the junior high. And so that's another thing that I think they were talking about. Returning citizens about housing, and that was a good group because we may hear, what I hope we'll hear is also how well the Fair Chance Access to Housing ordinance is working and what else is needed.
What do you mean by returning citizen?
Returning from prison.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And another group was talking about employment for those people with criminal history. So both of those could also be very interesting. Literacy in schools was one they chose, and I thought that was interesting. And they also, I think in their write-up, they talked about COVID and how that made everybody fall far behind, and what could be done with that. And there may be a group that is doing something about neurodiverse students.
About what?
Neurodiverse students. So we're talking about autism and things like that. Is there anything about the sight unseen and recommendations not had that you would be especially interested
I think for our purposes, the two having to do with re-entry are appropriate, especially given our Fair Chance Access to Housing, and also the ban the box stuff we've been involved with. And possibly the first one you mentioned.
Renters.
The ones having to do with education, I mean, there's a federal law that governs, mainstreaming disabled students. It's not, I think the stuff that's in the schools is in the schools.
And I referred them to the Disability Commission too.
Yeah.
So that might be interesting. You all agree that those would be the three that are most likely? So we'll hear the recommendations, and if I have time, I will get back to you and say, this is, what do you want to hear? It will also go into the documentation, the Google Docs that we use as a reference.
Thank you.
We can get a
Thank
copy
you for
of
doing
all
this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, to the meat. Right to sit amendment.
Okay, so you all know that's me, right? Were you
That's
going to
you.
say something else first?
No.
Okay. You all know that City Council did recently pass a right to sit so that employees are entitled to sit at work as long as it doesn't interfere with their job duties. And the burden is on the employer, if they deny that person the right to sit, to show that it does in fact interfere with their job duties. And the City Council and City Attorney's Office and our liaison chose to put that new right in the non-discrimination ordinance because there wasn't really anybody else to enforce it, and so we are the chosen ones, which is fine. But then it fell to us to figure out how to add that information to the website in a clear way, since the non-discrimination ordinance in general has to do with discrimination and protected classes, and this is separate from that. So I went into what was there, I cut and pasted it into a Word document, and I tried to make it so that it's kind of simple and divided. So now our ordinance has more than one part. One is discrimination, one is right to sit, basically. And there have to be two separate complaints because the discrimination complaint is completely different. The questions are different, the categories are different. So I just drafted a very simple right to sit complaint that hopefully can be linked to from our site. We have to work with IT in the city for them to actually make the complaint happen so that when you click on the link, it takes it somewhere and it's in their system and gets sent to Kennedy.
In terms of like interventions or navigating it, is it still just like a mediation? If there's like repeat offenses of it, is it still just
It's the way they stuck it in. It's it's the same complaint process we use for. So the options are to mediate, to refer to other other agencies, although as far as I know, our city's the only right to sit place, but you can imagine there might be some disability issues, although this isn't restricted to disability, that you might be able to refer somebody to, so
Yeah.
that, and then we can dismiss it if it's not, if the complaint doesn't actually have to do with the right to sit, or we can send it on to the city attorney if we're unable to resolve it. Those are the 4 options, same as discrimination. Was that your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, if we keep getting, and people can be fined the same way. So if there's, if we can't make an employer do it, we send it to the city attorney, and maybe the employer will listen to the city attorney. Yeah.
What's significant about this is that you don't have to be disabled.
Right.
Or provide documentation of any disability that to be able to enjoy this right. Whereas prior to this, individuals who wanted to sit did have to provide proof. And what's interesting is that it gets a little muddy because under the Americans with Disabilities Act, as long as you can perform the essential functions of the job with or without accommodation, that employer has to demonstrate that you are, you can or that you have it, either with or without. So with this, none of that is required, which is good. I think in some respects it's going to be more of an educational thing for us initially, which it should be, because just as with the either fair chance access information that we have responsibility for disseminating and discharging, I'm finding, especially with the complaint that I have, is that the individuals involved are just not aware. They don't have the knowledge to know that they are in violation. Some do, and it's deliberate, but most don't. So I see our role initially being educational, more educational than, trying to either navigate through that legislation.
And it does, again, feel like something the city ought to broadcast. So, I did send an email to Margie before I started working on this saying, are we responsible for making these changes? And she said, she said she would help, and can't you just amend and in the end it wasn't that hard, but you can't just add it on because it's this whole separate thing. So I just did it. It didn't take that long. I sent it to Leslie and Judah. You guys can review it. I don't think and once it's up on the website, just take a look at it. It's easily changed through Kennedy. So what was I going to say? As far as educating. So, that to me is something that the city's communications, they should, because there is a newsletter that goes out, it should say there's this new right to sit. We could send out an email. That would be a really appropriate thing to your list.
Yes.
To saying there's a new protection. And that's
So you're talking about newsletter?
Yeah, that's worth a separate message, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a big change.
It's a big change. I don't want to do it until we've got something up on.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we should check with maybe Aisha really, or because she was the one who backed it to say, why don't you talk to the city about pushing it out?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna learn as we do it, because there are also issues about people who didn't start out disabled but have become disabled because they've stood too much.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And my guess is we're going to get a lot of business owners who are going to sort of fantasize about why it's so important to stand all the time, and we probably want to understand.
And it will be tricky.
And it will be tricky because some of them really are good reasons.
And then how much, and how much sitting, it's sitting all the time, sitting for a certain number of minutes, an hour, what's reasonable. Margaret, I did ask Margaret for some kind of guidelines on this because it's pretty vague in a way, the way it's written. And she did send sort of a checklist of things that to keep in mind, that because there are some states that have the same right to sit, and how they view it and what they do. I can share that with everybody.
Are there any connections to like the occupational, what's it called?
OSHA?
Yeah, like any
That's a good question.
connections to that? Because I feel like that would, if this is about like, I'm assuming people are going to be standing like in their workplace. So if this is like workplace health or occupational health, then I think it might be helpful to think about resources or connections to them if they can provide any oversight or even guidelines or something of like what should be expected per whatever industry. Because I don't know if that's us, if we can decide that, if that's not like our background of everyone's different. So
We can't decide, I mean, it depends on what kind of mediation you do, as to trying to figure out, is the employee trying to, not work, or is the business owner trying to really either do a good job or really just force this person to do something for no particular reason. So, I mean, it seems awfully fuzzy. I don't know
We'll
how.
see. Well, that's why I was wondering. That's why I asked Margie.
Right. And well, as Pam said, it's going to be an educational process for us, for the employers, for the workers, and we'll work through it.
Yeah,
I think
that's
once we
right.
have specific cases, we can talk about them. But till then, it's all speculation. So.
And Margie did say when we get some complaints to use her, work with her on that.
Okay.
So.
Well, it'll be a good learning opportunity. So, do you have any idea how long it'll take to change the website?
No, I mean, it's pretty, as long as you guys are, I'll send, I think you can just change the page itself.
Yeah, so the
easily.
page itself, I can just change.
But the links
But the
and then forms.
the form part, IT will have to do, because it's locked, so like, they want like restricted access to that.
Okay.
So like, for all the forms that are, that they'll update, but the content on the website with information, I will update. I just need the information, I'll put it on there.
So I mean, I can send it to everybody if you want. You can just like take a look at it. If it's okay, I'll send it to Kennedy. And then, I mean, I'll send you the 3 pages I did. I had to edit so on our website, there's a link to the discrimination complaint. And then when you go to that, to the actual complaint, there's a whole lot of information about our process, and then that you fill in the complaint. So I had to edit that a little to make it clear it was just about discrimination complaints, not for all complaints. And then on our website, once it's amended, there'll be a link to the right to sit complaint. I have similar stuff about process on there, and then different questions, simple question, because it's not as complicated as the discrimination.
Is one of those questions asking them if they present with a challenge?
No, because it should be irrelevant.
No, I know that, but if they do, that would solidify or even give more support to their complaint.
No, I would worry about doing that, because someone might think, oh, well, I don't have a challenge, so I guess I can't file a complaint.
Okay.
You know what I
Because
mean?
we do still cover, disability, but
Well, that
it's
would be
under-
the discrimination.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I don't know. I just
wondered-
wrote one question. It said something like, and you guys should feel free to edit it. I really didn't take very long. It just says something like, how and when do you think your right to sit was violated, or something like that, and just let them do a little. Because in the end, we're just going to have to contact them and talk to them. It kind of
Yeah,
doesn't
we would
matter.
anyway. It's just that I want to make sure we capture all ways that individuals who feel that they've been harmed.
I see.
So let's say, for the sake of argument, someone does present with a disability. We can refer them to the other part of our website that says, you may have recourse in this area where it may not apply in this. Just trying to
I see
capture
what
all
you're
ways that they
saying.
can.
Yeah.
And there
Okay.
can always be a note of, even if you don't have or believe you have a disability, you can still complete this form. Just like a little sub note or something. So
Yeah, I still think that leaves people wondering. And we really don't, disability has nothing to do with this.
That's true.
So
Unless it does.
But make it,
unless it does, but it's not a threshold.
Right.
Right.
this is something that we ought to take notes for, that include that kind of question and take good notes, because at some point, we're going to look at all those notes and
Right.
say,
Oh,
this
yeah,
is what we
should
expect
do.
and this is
Oh,
what we
sure,
don't.
absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
Because it's really, it's new territory for a lot of
Right.
reasons.
So-
And it's simpler than what we do with it for a lot of reasons, too. I mean, it's...
Kenny, I remember when we did the first complaint with, was it Nick? I don't know if it would still be Nick. We actually were on a Zoom call with him while he was doing it.
Okay.
I mean, I can just,
Yeah, we can set up a call with him to.
or I can send, once it's reviewed by everybody, could send all 3 pages to you. And if you have any questions, we can just talk about it. And
Yeah.
then he can sort of create the page and then send it to us before it's live, right?
So for the forms, the pages parts is just like editing and updating the pages.
Yeah.
That's something like
That
I
you
can
do.
do.
But
So
for him-
before the page, like the website goes live, I can send you like shots of like what the page looks like before it is
Okay.
before it gets published.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the forms too. Like
Oh, the
we
same
won't
thing
we
with
won't
forms.
publish them until
Okay.
like, so we'll
Okay.
have them drafted, but
Okay.
no, they won't be
right.
published.
So maybe we won't need to meet with them. Last time we did because I don't know, we were having trouble like conveying exactly what kind of layout we wanted, so we did, remember that?
And the website also too has changed, so like we don't use the same layout as the previous website. The layout now is a lot different.
Yeah.
So
It
also
is.
take that, yeah. So the
I
website
can see
design
that.
is a lot different now.
Yeah.
So also take into consideration that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just cut and pasted what was there now, so
Yeah.
it'll be the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, yeah, for doing
I
that.
got you.
Thank you for doing it. No
problem.
That's difficult, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Difficult. Any new business? Other things you want us to deal with? Well. in that
Communication?
case- Yes, communication.
None? All
Any
right.
events you're going to, or things you want people to know?
If not,
Then we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion?
Oh, we just want to stay.
Well, we can do that too.
second by Kurt. All right.
You scared him.
All right. Good job.
Yay. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
And Julie. And everybody.